to Kingdom Lum Small Town Underground, everybody. Just now getting started. I just got a couple announcements to make real quick. Upcoming guests, we're going to have Reagan Box coming out sometime in the next couple of weeks. We're going to have a special 4-panel discussion one of the Wednesdays before Thanksgiving, and a very, very special Thanksgiving special with Michael Anthony of America Disclosing Uncensored from Studio 10 Broadcasting. So very, very excited to be bringing this content to you, and it's all coming up this month in November. So without further ado, welcome to the show this evening, and as you can see, you might want to scoot over just a little bit. I tried to mess with my camera a little bit to get everybody in. We have a special show tonight, an in-house live stream, and sitting next to me is the Elliot Pierce, the journalist from this area. We're very excited to meet him. This is the first time I'm meeting him this evening. We've talked for a long time, and sitting next to him is Angela Pence. This will be our first time meeting. She's joining the show tonight. So good evening and welcome. How is everybody doing tonight?
Thanks for having us.
Yeah.
You know, it's just after the elections. So it's a little relief time.
Absolutely. We had the local elections last night. So SPLOST tax passed. Looks like Matthew Nave made it to the city council.
Yes.
She was the campaign manager.
You were the campaign manager. Okay.
So I wasn't the campaign manager for Matthew.
Okay.
Because Matthew is like this legendary figure in politics, period.
Right.
So he did a lot. He did a lot of his own stuff. But I was the campaign manager for Trade Deck.
Oh, that's right.
Okay.
So and they were really hand in hand
Good deal.
throughout the whole thing.
I was wanting to get Matthew on the show. We talked about it in October, but I know he was real busy and a lot of things going on, so we never did get a chance. But I'm going to try to reach out to him at some point, and so we can just sit down and have a good conversation. So. Well, why don't we kind of tell the audience, is to each one of you just tell a little bit about yourself and what you're, what we're doing here. So.
Oh.
I'll go first.
Sure.
My involvement in the local area is, I went to school in Walker County. Graduated from Ridgeland, and then I moved away and came back and I went to school for history and then got into finance, and then I came back in 2018 or so, and started paying attention to local issues.
Okay.
So 2020, I really got involved in local politics and tried to help Perry Lamb run again for
Perry, right?
Right.
Mm-hmm.
So,
he was a good guy. I really like Perry.
Became one of my best friends. And,
Okay.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
So that's how I got involved in local politics. And during that process, I found that local media and local news was lacking. There was nothing there. They had one reporter that was covering 2 counties. There was nothing to really delve into issues. They were basically printing press releases as news.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
That didn't work for me. So I like to look into stuff. So I started looking into stuff, and I write about some things and some things I don't. But
gotcha.
It's
Okay.
trying to fill the void of the lack of local news media.
Definitely. If you don't already know, and I'm going to kind of blow this up here, ElliotPierce.net. If you aren't following, he does a lot of journalism, a lot of local journalism. I've read a whole lot of his stuff. And I can say it's good journalism. It doesn't mean that you have to agree or disagree with it, but it's somebody that's producing content locally. So if you don't already...
State and local.
Well, state and local. I haven't read a dull article yet. So
what I say about it is this was some
all.
advice given to me by a columnist in Atlanta I've come to respect a lot. And it's really one of the reasons I started writing too, because he got me into reading his back when I was in high school.
Okay.
He said you should have about 50% of your audience disagreeing with you every week.
Okay.
But you should never have the same 50% disagreeing
Gotcha.
with you every week.
Okay, that makes sense. Absolutely. There's not a problem with that. But certainly, I don't think I tell people often, I don't think everybody should ever totally agree with me. We must see things from all angles.
Yes.
So, or we get stuck in these echo chambers, right?
Yeah, no, and I'm a conservative, obviously.
Okay.
Republican.
Yes.
That's just who I am. But I started out in college and in high school. I was a hardcore left-wing Democrat, liberal. Led a march down with Jesse Jackson and Al Sharpton out there in Atlanta for the Keep the Vote Alive in 2005.
Okay.
For the re-up of the Voting Rights Act. And then in college, and then when I got into finance, that's when I really changed over.
So, just out of curiosity, what kind of led you to change over, like
The real world.
The real world.
Yeah.
Okay, that's fair enough. I mean, obviously.
Yep.
I get
Seeing how the
exactly.
economy works. Yeah.
Absolutely. And you okay? So, Angela, tell us about yourself.
So very similarly, actually, I got involved in politics, really involved in Perry Lamb's first campaign run. And that's actually how me and Elliot met, but we didn't meet through that run. We met through the second run in 2020. Perry was running again, and I was commenting on some things, and Elliot called me, and he was like, hey, like, we need you. Because me and Elliot are like polar opposite people in how we deal with anything and everything.
Right.
So I do a lot and have for years with local politics. I've worked really a broad spectrum from federal to now city races. I actually was libertarian, registered libertarian. My first actual presidential vote was libertarian. It was for Gary Johnson, and I was a Gary Johnson libertarian.
Understood.
And then throughout the years, I continued on that path. I worked on Joe Jorgensen's campaign in 2020.
Okay.
Yeah,
Got a lot of respect for the Libertarian Party. I really do. I love Ron Paul and
John McAfee.
Yeah, John McAfee. There's a lot of good ones out there.
Yes, absolutely.
So, okay.
I think there's a very large intersection, right, of between libertarians and conservatives.
Absolutely.
That freedom, especially, there's very major issues that libertarians and Republicans, they agree on. Very fundamental things, medical freedom, to Second Amendment rights, things like
Absolutely. I mean, I always joke, I even said it before the show, a libertarian's kind of like a conservative without all the baggage, you know, and that's what I kind of think of it as, really. Because right now the fight is conservatism against this liberalism, and it's we're doing everything we can, I believe, to make a difference and bring more grassroots people and more people involved to take the power back to we the people. That's what my focus is primarily on.
One of the reasons I write about local and state issues is because I think that the things that happen at your school board meeting, at your local commission meeting, your city council, and at the state level matter infinitely more to your everyday life than anything that's ever going to happen in Washington outside of a declaration of war, something like that.
Sure. I mean, I agree with that. The more that I look into politics, the more you realize that your local politics are where,
everything.
And that's where the focus of this sort of globalist corporatocracy is looking at now. We see the DAs and judges being changed out, and
schools
and school systems and the indoctrination.
There's a lot more that people don't know about schools yet.
Sure, and I think we're going to get into some of that tonight. Yeah. So Elliot, tell us, what do you have going on right now? Where do you want to start at?
So my big issue, I guess, for the past year or so has been my claim to the thing I've been writing about most has been the school system in Walker County.
Okay.
It started out with me looking into them having the SEL being in there. They had a program called 7 Mindsets that the superintendent purchased. And then it led to me just looking into their governance a lot more, just digging into a lot of issues. So looking at their test scores, stuff like that. And that led me to what I found in December of last year, which was that 2 of the school board members were serving in violation of the state law on eligibility.
Okay.
So I wrote about that.
Okay. All right.
And that was my first article that I wrote about that.
So before we get into that part, can we kind of explain to the audience what the SEL was all about? You wrote a pretty good article. That was one of the first things on my radar that led me to your writing, was the SEL.
So, the reasoning behind the SEL push is there has been a shift. I mean, I think anyone pays attention to it. There's a shift in culture, whatever it might be, where people are feeling more, they have more issues, they have more emotional concerns, self-esteem, whatever it may be. The teen suicide rates are up. So I don't dispute that there is emotional problems in schools, and that schools probably have a role in that. But what these are programs that are not, we don't know much about them, that are being implemented, and there's a host of them. It's all paid, it's all for-profit companies, and they're being put in there without much research into their background, research into the effectiveness or anything. So what they put in, it was called 7 Mindsets. and this was it's owned by a hedge fund out of Dallas.
Corporate.
They came from Atlanta, but their efficacy was one single study at 2 high schools in Florida. They didn't have any, and we were spending $1 million a year on it. That's how
Wow.
much it was purchased for.
Okay.
Yeah.
Now, correct me if I'm wrong, because I did a little research into the article and some other things, and it's kind of like a package deal where the counties could go in and they could pick these different this packages to teach, to implement,
Right.
and but along with these packages came all kinds of perks. Like, well, if you buy this package, we're gonna give you a new football field type thing. Is that correct or incorrect?
So with this, no, that would not have been the case.
Okay, that not with SEL.
Not
right?
not with this particular SE. There are things out there that may offer that, but this particular
Okay.
one, no. It did. So of the, as far as what do you want to call them, indoctrination type of SEL, this was probably one of the more tame ones.
Okay.
And to my understanding, that they're not even going to be re-opening a contract on it.
Right, I believe that's correct.
Yeah.
They've kind of dropped it, right?
Well, I mean, because it was worthless to begin with. Number one, they didn't train the teachers in it. They didn't.
Right. And that was one of the requirements, right? The teacher's going to have to go through like this psychological
Well, yeah,
training.
and that was one of my issues with it is if you're trying to give the teachers more stuff to do, number one, you're not paying them to do this extra stuff, and two, you're not training them to do it, and then you already have these other things that you're supposed to be doing, and if you look at the results, you're not even doing them well.
Right.
So how can you possibly implement something like this?
It sounds like some bureaucracy to me.
Yeah.
Okay, so then from SEL, and that was last year, correct?
Yeah, that was last summer about when I
Okay.
wrote about that.
So now we're moving into some more revelations, right?
December,
So,
yeah.
I pulled this up here. I want everybody to see. This was one of the pieces that was written by Elliot Pearson. This dates back to December 14th, 2022. Walker School Board and leadership ravaged by nepotism and ethics dilemmas. So I'll read this pretext. 6 Walker elementary schools added to federal support and improvement list. Nepotism ethics issues. Should board members resign or have consequences and accountability be cast aside for adults too? So you want to tell us about this article?
Yes, I forgot about that a little bit. The 6 Walker County elementary schools. Every year, the state has to put on they have to go through and they do improvement schools that get put on a state list based
Okay.
off of different metrics within the test scores, data, everything they have. And last December, six of Walker County's elementary schools were put on that list. The only other school system in the state, there's 180 school systems. The only other one that had more was Atlanta Public Schools.
Okay. Wow.
That should tell you, yeah. That's not a list you want to be on.
Right.
That's not company you want to keep.
Gotcha.
So that is another reason to look into this. There should be some accountability when that happens, you would think.
Right.
Well, why might there not be accountability? That was my question. If they're not holding people accountable, why? So
Okay.
let's look into it. So you look into the school board members. Well, these 2 school board members in particular, and it's Mike Caruth and Karen Harden.
Okay.
Mike Caruth's been serving on the school board since 2006, I believe.
Okay.
Maybe 2004, but he's been on there a long time. Karen Harden has been serving since 2022, the beginning of 22. She was appointed to replace a member who had died.
Okay.
She had to then run for an election, and she won that election in 22
Okay.
in November. So looked into both of them, and so Mike Ruth has a son that graduated from schools just a few years after me, and graduated from Ridgeland, and he's since been a teacher, and then in 2018 he was hired to be a principal or assistant principal. I forget which school, but it was within the district.
Okay.
It happened in 2018, and then just in 22 he became the CTAE director for the district.
Okay.
Karen Harden, her son, also teaches in the district. He's been there since 2010, maybe 2009. So then in 2017 or so, I think he became the technology director, and he's held that position since.
Okay.
Okay, and that's another district-wide director position. If you look at the law, it says, and you can pull it up if you go to one of those.
Let's see here. From yours.
Yeah, it's in the article.
It's in, okay,
It's
here
the
we go. I'm
green
gonna pull
and-
this up again,
Yep.
and we're gonna look down through it.
Up a little bit. Yep.
Here we go. This right here.
Yep. A little bit more.
Okay,
There
here
you
we go.
So the Georgia law, this was passed in 2010, says that no person who has an immediate family member sitting on a local board of education or serving as the local superintendent or as a principal, assistant principal, or system administrative staff in the local school system shall be eligible to serve as a member of the local board of education.
Okay.
So what that means is if you have a child, an adult child, that's your immediate family member, serving as a assistant principal, or system administrative staff, you can't be on the school board.
Okay. Wow.
So
that's the law.
yeah.
Okay. So what are we going to do about that? Has anybody responded to this?
So when I brought that to the attention in the article, is also is a letter from Damon Raines,
Okay.
responding to that question.
All right.
And you can see that there.
Right here. Okay.
So and his says, and you have to read what that it says. Basically,
You want me to read some of it?
If you go down a little,
Let's see.
it says the board is aware of some of the concerns. Yeah, right there.
The board is aware of some concerns expressed about this matter and has previously sought and obtained additional guidance from the Attorney General's office and the State Department of Education. The Attorney General's office and the State Department of Education advise that while there is no definition of system administrative staff in the statute or case law, the term likely includes only the highest level system administrative employees, such as personnel director or facilities director or other director positions. The term does not include middle management positions. Okay?
Yeah, so that didn't fly with me because if you
Okay.
go down the article a little more,
sure.
there was guidance. So in 2010, when they passed this, the Department of Education passed or put out a guidance document to go with the law.
Okay.
It should be a little bit more.
All right.
Yeah, questions, answers. Our board members that are elected before whatever it is, grandfathered in, because one reason that you might think that Caruth might not be, because he was elected before 2010.
Okay.
It says there, no, it's not. Okay? So
okay.
the other one is on system administrative staff. If you go up a little more, it says director. They said they were
Right here?
coordinators, okay?
Okay.
Well, it says there, Scott Harden, he says he's a director.
I
But
see.
if you go to what the superintendent's telling me is they're coordinators and they're serving under a director. But that doesn't make any sense because if you go to the state salary database like I did, I pulled.
I think that's down right here.
No, I don't think that's on there.
Oh,
but,
okay.
So on the state salary database, I pulled every school system that had the same title as technology director, everyone that had the same title as vocational director or CTAE director. And if you go to their school websites, which the list the staff directory, they're all labeled as directors in there.
Okay.
Around here, Chattooga, Catoosa, Dade, director, except for here. We call them a coordinator on our county website, even though in the salary database they're labeled as director too. So their job code, according to the state and HR, are director, but according to Damon, they're trying to say that it's a coordinator position.
Okay.
So what he's trying to do is basically say it's system, middle management. He's trying to basically, if that's true, then they can say just change the definition of whatever position it is, so that they don't fall into that that law.
So they're sounds like based on what the article and based on your research, they're like you said, they're just trying to candy coat exactly what
Right.
it
He
is.
didn't. He just try to get around it.
Okay.
It was not a popular law when it was passed with some people in school systems for that reason, because it would force ethics on them.
Okay. Understood.
So it's not just the law. There's also ethics policies at the local level
Wow.
that say you can't have that as well.
Okay. Wow. So this was December of 22. Has there been any other response since then?
Yeah, so he also said in there that he sought guidance from the Department of Education and from the Attorney General's office as to the meaning of system administrative staff, because it doesn't spell out exactly what that is, but it's, directors of those things, that's system administrative staff.
Okay.
So what I did was I called, or rather I sent emails to the Department of Education and to the Attorney General's office saying, okay, well, where's this proof? I didn't get any.
Didn't get any.
Multiple times I sent them.
Okay.
So then I talked to the superintendent and asked him, "Where's the proof? Show it to me. If you can show me that might appease me.
Right.
Probably wouldn't, but it might. So no, not going to give it to me. He said it's shielded by attorney-client privilege.
Okay.
That's
kind of a red flag.
who's attorney-client privilege? The best interest of the school system.
Well, the school system's
Is-
public, right?
Yeah. So who's the client here? Or, Are we sure? Is the board attorney, Ron Womack, is he acting as the attorney for these two individual school board members, or is he acting as the attorney for the students and the school board?
Gotcha.
Because they have adverse interests here.
Okay.
That's something that never been answered.
Well,
And the school board meetings are not broadcast.
gotcha.
They're not live streamed. They're not recorded. The recognition portion of the meetings are. They're posted online.
Okay.
But with a school system that has more in revenue than all of the cities and the county government combined, and they don't have any public record of the meeting as far as recording.
Okay, I didn't know that.
Yep.
So they meet once a month and write down.
No, they
here?
meet twice. No,
Twice?
More than that even. I think.
Really?
Because they have a work session and a regular business meeting.
Okay. Well, that's kind of interesting. So where do we get this information from? You just got to search far and wide.
Well,
for
so
it?
I also asked for one thing. I asked for the detailed budget. I want to go down to the object level to see actually how they were spending things.
Okay.
If I could get a ledger, that'd be great. What I was given was like a 14-page budget, maybe. They put out on their website, it's like a 1-page, 2-page budget. So you remember how BB used to do?
Yeah.
That
Yes.
kind of thing.
I got you.
Yep.
Wow. Okay.
For $140 million revenue,
Very little accountability there, or public
yeah.
accountability, correct?
Yep.
Wow. Okay.
and it's been rising and rising and rising. If you look at your property taxes, 80% are the local school system.
And not to mention, I've been doing a lot of research into the SPLOST, and then you have
Oh,
T-SPLOST, and you have E-SPLOST, and you have regular SPLOST.
I would not vote for another ESPLOST until they, at the state level, change the allowable spending. Because right now what you're having is it can only be spent for capital assets and capital improvements. So you're having these schools that are building buildings that last 50 years. So that's done, what do you spend the money on? Because you do it every 5 years or 6 years.
6 years, I
So
think.
now they're going out. It's a competition for athletic facilities.
Yeah, well, obviously, yeah, there's a lot of it.
And all of that can't be it has to be maintained through the general fund. It can't come from you can't have the maintenance can't come from the East Lost. So yeah, it's just building up more that we have to spend on maintenance.
Obviously, I'm not here. I don't want to really go into SPLOST tax. Because I don't think a SPLOST is a horrible thing, but I do. Taxes are so outrageous at the moment, and I'm not sure I like how they handled this. Well, I'll put it to you this way: so many people in the last 24 hours didn't even know that they could go and vote for or against the SPLOST tax because it's kind of been somewhat hidden in this city election where they're just not sure, and I've had several conversations, so it's kind of interesting when you think about that,
Oh yeah, I'm happy to talk about that too because I've looked into it. Yeah, but we can do another. We can wait till we get it.
Sure,
whatever, yeah.
Sure. SPLOST, we don't have to talk about it tonight unless you guys want to get into it. But I'm sick of taxes in the first place. So, but yeah,
She's against SPLOST too, aren't you?
Against?
Yeah.
So originally, yes.
Yeah. Sure.
Because I just think all taxation is stuff. But I actually voted for it this time.
Yeah.
And the reason why is because of the way that it works. To my understanding and how I have seen it, theoretically, if it is used properly, would take the load off of the local citizens.
Sure. The way it looks, the research, when you look at SPLOST, it's a 1% sales tax, right? That goes from anything that you buy in the city and all this stuff, and then it accumulates, and then you have the T for transportation and the E for education, and it doesn't sound like a bad thing. The problem is how taxed we are as a whole. As like we mentioned, property taxes. We mentioned, recently, I've been told bail bonding and pawn shops just got a valorum tax in town, and it's just like, where does this all end?
Well, the problem is that the counties have, the municipal and the county governments have not used the SPLOST and the eSPLOST and all this for what they're meant to be, as far as they're meant to take the place of the general revenue that you receive from property taxes, so that you can use it if you're not spending that money to, if you're not having to spend to raise the money from property taxes, then you shouldn't, not necessarily reduce it, but you shouldn't be raising it.
Absolutely.
So
Absolutely.
But if you look over the past 10 years or so, it's been pretty outrageous, the amount that, and part of that is the way the law has been constructed to where people don't really understand that it's the rate is what the problem is, not the assessment.
Right.
The assessment doesn't matter
Okay.
because the assessment's gone down, but the rate has always gone up.
Yeah, it has. And so SPLOST, like I said, I'm generally against SPLOST in the first place. But like I said, it's so much to wrap your mind around on how it is there and how it's been a staple for like 30 years. I'm reading it. I mean, it's 3 decades we've had this, and then there's been comments made where like, well, if the SPLOST tax doesn't pass here, then we'll just do a special election in 6 months. So it's kind of like, well, I mean, could you ever get rid of a SPLOST tax?
Right.
Well,
it depends. It depends on your leadership.
Right. That's true.
And whether, but the SPLOST period is incredibly unpopular right now. So I was actually very shocked that it passed. Because anybody you talk to, and me voting for it, especially this time, the question was, well, why are people not receptive to it? It's a good thing. And I said, well, the government, y'all have screwed it up so much for so long.
And you go to Walmart and buy one bag of groceries for $100. Nobody wants to think about paying extra taxes right now. Anything extra out of their pocket,
Well, like in Catoosa, so there's some areas where, like someone asked me today, is SPLOST necessarily harmful to lower income households? Well, it depends. Like in some areas, in Catoosa, for instance, it is way, way better for them to do a SPLOST, a T-SPLOST, because so much of their sales tax revenue comes from out of county residents.
I see what you're saying.
I've been using the Walmart or whatever it is, DoorDash, extensively. I don't think I've been in a Walmart in a year at least. Because you can just once a month you can go on there and just get what you want and have it delivered. So and all that has come from Catoosa County.
Gotcha. Okay.
So that just a ton of their sales tax revenue comes from out of county residents. So for them to if they vote against that, it's just insane to me.
Okay.
You're just putting the burden on your lower taxpayers.
I do think that it's something that the general public, including myself, needs to be more aware. I've learned more about SPLOST in the last week than I have ever even cared to learn about it. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. And then I talked to people today, yesterday, and all of us are kind of in the same boat, like what is going on here? So I think in the future it's going to be explored heavily.
That's another problem too that I would like. So talking about it, the elected officials need to not be cheerleaders. They should just tell us the facts.
The facts of it.
That is a huge point that I like to bring up, because when I know people that I mean, like good people that are like no to SPLOST, no to SPLOST, and I think that's part of the problem, because some of these people that you look at are being cheerleaders for this. Yes. Like, we can't live without this. We've got to have this, and it has a negative connotation to it when you put it in those terms.
It almost makes you think. I mean, this is what people online have written. They I see it said is like, well, they're just going to pad their pockets or whatever.
Right.
And so I've dealt with tons of politicians. For by and far, the most of them are genuine individuals that are just trying to they really do want to do the best job they can for the residents. And I've not found fraud, and I've looked into them extensively.
Okay, gotcha.
If I found it, trust me, it would be
Understood.
Trust me, as we're going to go through this a little bit more with schools,
right?
I have no problem bringing out things. So.
Yeah, and it is. It's. I think that SPLOST needs to be explored more, and from just straight up fact based, because none of us, I don't think, want to pay a single penny more taxes, especially on a federal level. All of our tax dollars are going to other countries, and our country seems to be falling apart. And even on the state level, it's like it's kind of an oxymoron to me, where we always gripe about the roads.
Right.
And they're like, well, we're getting the SPLOST for the roads, but every time it comes up, we still got bad roads. I'm like, well, wait, we had the SPLOST tax for the roads. I'm not, I'm just jumping but hey, it's something I think is going to be paid a lot more attention in the future.
It will.
So,
and I
do
want to know, and this is probably a rarity. That was a criticism that I know was very specifically given to the county the last time, that people don't like, they have no idea what this is.
Mm-hmm.
And I will say that they did a better job. The county did a better job this time, just in putting out those those blurbs of what, okay, this is what it is.
Sure.
And that goes to Shannon and Jill. I'll give them credit for
it
that.
does. I do think that there were valid questions that were also asked about it that maybe weren't fully answered. So I mean, there's a lot to unpack there with it.
Well, at the very least, right? Because I'm not going to lie, it would have been a no on a SPLOST tax just for the simple facts it was a tax. That's just me, and I'm not ashamed of that. But at the same time, the SPLOST tax is here. So we should be following it. We should be making sure that it's implemented in the right way because they have it now. Right. So we need to hold them accountable and make sure it's being used in the right way.
Right. Yes.
And my point would be is I know you're against tax. So yes, I'm fine with being against taxes, and I am too. But what you have to balance it where it comes from, because property tax owners and the residents are not the only ones that are using your infrastructure.
Right.
So do you want to give your infrastructure the people that are using it, the
Sure.
majority, especially in the case of like Catoosa, a lot of out of town and a lot of out of county residents coming through. Do you want to give them a free ride?
No, I get what you're saying. I mean, part of that
it's fair
is
to have
emotional.
the tax closer to the user.
Yeah, I will be the first to admit it's an emotional thing. I'm just like, no more taxes. In actuality, it's like, well, of course, I'm a taxpayer. I pay my taxes. It's
at the same time, I'll say this: in Shannon Whitfield and I have talked about this in Walker County. Is the state has to do it, but we've talked about is just by having a 2 cent more as far as for the county. If we could do that, we could eliminate property taxes. The portion that Walker County gets from property taxes, the county, not the schools, just a 1.5, 2 cents more would eliminate the county portion of the property taxes.
Wow.
And it's not unreasonable to assume that the revenue may continue to increase from it because we're still catching up. So what it is, sales tax.
Okay.
From 2005, when Amazon really took on, and when everything started going online, until 2018, 2020. The states were just not getting that revenue. They were not. It was lost billions in lost sales and tax revenue that they should have been receiving.
Gotcha.
They finally caught up, and it's still rolling in as far as getting the merchants integrated into that. And there's a lot of stuff that they still don't capture. So sales tax, I think it's only going to continue to increase.
Right. Well, absolutely. I think everything's going to increase, man.
I think revenue.
I'm with you. You. I try not to be doom and gloom, but I'm telling you, it's like,
You're a libertarian.
It's crazy. All right. So
fast forward to June, when the next article I wrote about schools really.
Okay, let's see here. So we're going to go back. We're in ElliotPierce.net archive. If anybody wants to follow along, we're going to June.
Yeah, lead in school water.
Right here. So this is a big one right here. Okay, so let me blow this up here while you talk about it.
So in June, I was actually having a conversation with Mike Cameron one night.
Okay.
And we were talking about infrastructure and water and sewer funding. And I had looked something up, and I came across a database, cleanwaterforuskids.com, I believe that's what it was. And it had lead test results for schools. Okay. And so I looked and see if there's any around here, because I'd never seen this before. I didn't know anything about lead and water. I didn't, but I found that Walker County had some results, and they came back pretty shocking. And they were in elementary schools, and that led me to learn a lot more about this issue. A number of them were above what's called the action level of the EPA that they set in 1990.
Parts per billion.
Yeah, parts per billion.
Okay.
So a lot of the Walker County ones, if you can scroll down, there's some at like Chattanooga Valley Elementary.
Okay.
Yeah.
Now, before I do that, I would like to read this excerpt because everybody knows about Flint, Michigan, and
the water crisis.
Yeah, and I was up in Michigan a couple years ago, and I was supposed to get a mason jar of the Flint water and bring it back as a souvenir, and it never did happen. We couldn't make it there, just because it was such a big deal. But this in his article, it states, for example, at the height of Flint, Michigan water crisis, median water lead levels were 3.5 ppb, which is parts per billion, according to the Virginia Tech Flint study team. So let's see.
So what were the
action levels for?
So what were the levels at the the test results at the schools here.
Okay.
So Chattanooga Valley Elementary had some, and you can see there's ice machines, faucets. The testing service did a good job of presenting everything.
Wow. So that's 208.78 parts per billion.
That's correct.
Wow, in the ice machine. Oof.
And then you go to, like, I think what are the other ones? There was Fairland.
Fairland,
Yep, that's
okay.
up on the mountain.
Okay. Lead in water.
Water
So
fountain.
every one of these are above, well, not all of them, but some of them are definitely above, like 43, 26. Wow.
And since then, we've had more that have come back. Like
Okay.
Naomi had more. We had some come back at Cherokee Ridge, at Rossville Elementary.
Okay.
Stone Creek had some as well.
Okay.
And then Ridgeland had some just recently that I wrote another article, and that will be the last one we'll talk about. I guess.
Okay.
But you can see there's some stuff there. So the results, and this is where it's been getting confused. So
Okay.
the superintendent put out I put this out, and the first thing was, when did you get the results?
Okay.
And when did you tell people? That was, sort of what I wanted. And found out that he got the results in January.
In January. So
Knowing
they
that.
did it started in December and they got the results.
They
in-
tested them at the end of November, beginning of December.
Okay.
Got the results in January. They bought one filter. I got a receipt for. I was asked for receipts of all of that.
Okay.
And asked for communications between the principals, because when I asked him on our first conversation at the end of June, he said that the administration in each building was aware.
Okay.
I wanted a record of that. I didn't get any record of that.
Tested in December. They started getting results back in January, and your conversation's in June.
Right.
And so the staff was aware. No,
There's no record of that.
no record. That's what they told you.
Right.
Okay.
Did not say that the teachers or students were aware, or
Okay.
or the parents at all. Now, I have real issues with that. Number one, I didn't get any record that the administrations were told,
Okay.
so take your word for it. Don't have any record of how anything was fixed. So now, the testing company provided some advice
Okay.
as what you're supposed to do. But so here's how lead works. The testing that they did, it's just a single draw. So they would run the faucet or the tap or whatever it was for 30 seconds. They'd fill up the container, and that was that single draw. Send that off, and what that is just a snapshot.
Okay.
The way lead works, it's very variable. So you might have in one drop of water, you might have 2 parts per billion, 3.5. You might have 1,700. But because it's just a snapshot, what it should be seen as is just a guide to show you that, yeah, you have lead in your water.
Okay.
You need to do something about this. You need to put a filter on. You need to find the source of the lead. You need to remove it.
Okay.
One of those options. Those are that's what you can do. And it's not, filters are not expensive.
Yeah.
And they just have to be, done. So what did the school system do? Nothing.
They didn't do anything.
No.
And
Kids were still drinking out of these. Now, the ones that were above the 15 parts per billion, they may have been. But the ones below, that doesn't mean that they're safe.
I see. So they tried to do put filters on the highest ones, I guess, maybe.
No. Just on the only filter they bought was for an ice machine.
That was it. They didn't do anything else about the other lead.
So they said that they closed it. They restricted use of the ones that were above 15 parts per billion. Okay. And that 15 parts per billion is what he's been relying on. It's what he kept on saying to the media. 15 parts per billion. We don't have to do anything above that. That's our threshold. Well, where does that number come from? 15 parts per billion comes from the 1990 EPA lead and copper rule that was created for water utilities to use as a guide to tell them when they needed to take corrective action for the system-wide on their water utility, not for use in an individual building.
Okay.
Not for use in a small environment like that, even a complex plumbing environment like a school.
Wow.
So it's in the EPA said itself that it's not a threshold of safety. It's not a medical safety. It's not a health safety.
Wow.
And it's also said that and numbers below 15 parts per billion are not to be taken as safe.
Now, is it the pipes? Is there a correlation? Do they have a source of this the lead?
Yeah, so they banned lead pipes in the 1970s.
Okay.
I think they were finally fully banned in 1988.
Okay.
And that's one of the reasons they started with the oldest buildings to test first, thinking that if there was any lead pipes, that's where it come from.
Okay.
And it was unlikely that they were going to have any lead service lines, which is from the water main to the building,
Okay.
because of the size of the facility, the requirements. the diameter of lead pipes wouldn't be really appropriate for that anyways.
Okay.
So it wasn't unlikely that they had lead service lines. So where does the lead come from? It comes from your fixtures, your fittings, your ball valves, stuff in your plumbing, because until 2014, even though they had banned the lead surface lines, they allowed in your brass fixtures, your different fittings to have up to 25%
Okay.
lead. And that leaches out over time.
Okay.
So that's where it's coming from, and it's getting rid of it in a complex plumbing environment and finding it is very difficult. So it's not like it's a task that they could, and there's no one should be blamed for them having that. No one knew about
Right.
this.
That's not the point you're making.
Right. The point I'm making is that for the 6 months from January to when I wrote the article, parents didn't know anything. He stripped parents of the right to make informed choices about their children's health.
Wow. Okay. I mean, that's what it kind of sounds like. I mean,
That's not what it sounds like. That's what it is.
Wow.
So then if he had just did the right thing, and all he had to do was just tell people that this is what it is. Here's how we're going to try to fix it. We're going to put filters on every tap that has a lead level that came back that's for human consumption. So like the bathroom faucets, you don't have to do that's you don't have to worry about that.
Of course.
Outside faucets, don't have to worry about it. But if you're anything for cooking and for drinking,
Sure. Anything that you're ingesting.
right? Yeah, just put the filters on it, and they have it in the East Lost,
Right.
the capital budget.
Right.
They have money to do it.
Wow. We were just talking about that. And so this is not something you were looking for. This is something you were looking for other things, and you stumbled upon this.
If it hadn't been for me and Mike talking about that night, never would have found this. And who knows how long it would have stayed quiet.
Right. Right. I mean, obviously, you're looking a PR nightmare, which it might be now. I don't know.
Well, so then if you go to my latest article, there's a video in there.
Okay.
So after I had, all this had came out, News Channel 9 did a report on it, and I
They
really
did.
took issue with the local news media because they just parroted what the superintendent was saying.
I did
without
watch it.
doing any really looking into what he was saying and see if it was true or not, because he kept on saying 15 parts per billion, it's fine, we don't have to do anything
Right.
above that or below that.
Now, is the video in here?
It'd be on my last article on the lead. It was lead levels is
right here.
Yep.
Legal battles?
Yes, the article it'll be at the very end,
Okay.
and we'll get to the real sort of this in a second.
Okay. Oh, wow. There's more.
Oh,
There's
this is that's a lot of the new ones, yeah.
more new ones. So, wow.
And I don't have Cherokee Ridge in there yet, or Rossville.
Okay. And I'm guessing most of these lead that was found from schools that were built in old.
No, so most of these are actually, and that's where it's. Most of them were like starting at Ridgeland.
Right.
They were built after 1990. So there's the video back there.
There's which
Scroll
one?
up a little bit more.
Oh, was it this
This
one
was
here?
he went on to local to Judy O'Neill's show,
Okay.
morning show, and caller called in and asked, and you can hear it, yeah. So
Let's go ahead and play it.
I was wanting to ask Mr. Rain why the parents were not told about the lead being in the water at the elementary school, and why the school board was not told also.
The school board was in the loop the whole time. Once the results were made available to us at the system, the school board knew about that. And I told the school board was in the loop the whole time. Once the results were made available to us at the system, the school board knew about that. And I told the
Wow.
yeah.
Okay.
So a parent did ask,
Okay.
and they asked the superintendent. And if you go a little more in the article, there's a timeline that he provided, and there's nothing there where he provided they were in the loop the whole time.
Okay. The timeline.
Yes, up a little bit more.
Oh, okay.
The
okay.
bullet points that was down
Oh.
right below the video.
Oh, yes. Okay. Right
Clean
here.
water timeline. Yeah.
Okay. So as you can see, this is the clean water timeline he's talking about, where it goes all the way July 7th, 21. It lays everything out from 2021 to 2023. Okay.
So do you see anywhere that says notified school board after 2020, the January 2018?
No.
Yeah, there's nothing there.
No.
So, and you can ask the individual school board members if they have proof of it. I'd love to see it.
Okay.
As far as the minutes of the meetings, there was nothing in there.
Gotcha.
First, they found out he didn't. So another thing too is if you find lead in your water, who are you going to ask? you're gonna ask the person you get the water from first.
Right.
Yeah, that would be an honest call.
Okay.
Well, one of my first calls was to that. So I called their water provider. Total news to them, and this was in June. They hadn't been told anything. The water provider. These are the experts in water.
Right.
Because Damon Raines is not an expert in water. They're educators, okay? Supposedly. They didn't have any clue about that. They had never been told about it. So how it blows my mind. It just seems like total incompetence as far as the handling of that. Now you can give them the benefit of the doubt, but still,
Wow. Okay.
not telling parents is the big deal.
Sure. I'm sure. And I've heard about, people have read your article and people have been asking questions.
And another, so the way we should talk about what lead does too. It's a deadly neurotoxin. Some people have said it was responsible for the fall of the Roman Empire because that's what they used for all their pipes. They put it in there. It was like a dessert topping. It was, for wine, everything, all that. Their utensils, everything was lead. So what it does, it's particularly deadly for children. And that's like the lead thing.
Yeah,
in
it's a very
Michigan,
harsh metal.
In Flint it was mainly the children. That's how they found out. That was what finally convinced the government there to change tack, and that they did have a problem was the results from the children.
Okay.
So with this, because it's in water, you're not going to have an acute lead toxicity unless it's super high.
Gotcha. Okay.
What it's going to be is over time, it's a cumulative exposure, cumulative
Sure.
toxicity you're going to have, and that can lead to learning disorders. It can lead to ADHD. It can lead to a
That's
lot
not
of things
good
that
in
were
school.
things. Well, I mean, you could see if you look at the numbers, we've had an increase in our learning disabilities. It's been going up for years now.
Sure. So here we are in November. All of this has happened. Has there been any proactive measures been taken since then?
So
since
he's done
June?
some. So from what I understand is he has put on some filters on certain, but again, he's only putting them on ones that tested above 15 parts per billion. But again, there's no guarantee that that's safe. There's no threshold of safety there. It's not a medical advice. The American Academy of Pediatrics says nothing above 1 part per billion.
Right.
Every medical source agrees there's no safe level. So why not filter it?
Sure, absolutely. More and more companies are using filtered water because of these types of things. So.
Yeah. So the last one, when the new results came in, the Richland one,
Okay.
I was like, okay, we got new results. Started talking to parents and some teachers, and it seems like we were replaying history. They didn't tell people again.
So these are September.
Right.
Okay, so they're still actively testing. This is Naomi Elementary 108 at the nurse's office, and you've got these coming in September the 13th, 14th.
Some of them in the beginning of October, middle of October too.
Okay. Oh, there's more. So is this another page of these?
Oh, there's 27 pages. Yeah.
27 pages. Wow.
I put everyone. So on the other website, you have to go by school. So I put them all into a spreadsheet.
Okay. Wow. So they're testing.
Yeah, Gilbert had some that came in. I think it was mid-October.
So it's not necessarily how old the school is
Right.
either.
Yeah, Gilbert's fairly new.
So, wow. Okay. This is wild, man.
There's another concern too that beyond the lead, there's something called PFAS,
Okay.
and that's that forever chemicals. I don't know if you're familiar with that.
Oh yeah, we've talked about them before. Yeah, they're everywhere.
North Georgia is in a special monitoring district from the EPA because of the all the textile mills we had in the region for all those years. For a century of textile mills populating the area, a lot of forever chemicals just went out into the environment,
Wow. Yeah.
particularly in the water.
Yeah, last week's show we were talking about Rincon, Georgia, about some recent chemical spills down there. That's some really nasty turpentine materials making people sick just breathing it in. So it's everywhere. So, wow.
Yeah, so you can see there's
It's a little
it
bit
just goes
everywhere.
on, yeah.
Right. So is there I guess I asked this already, but is there any kind of main source to this other than, is it just these fittings and things? Like how could we even get this out? I mean, really, you're just going to have to filter it.
There's certain ways of testing.
Okay.
The sampling method that they used was the snapshot. I said. The single point. There's another. If you can do sampling that will try to ascertain the source, and that's where you take successive samples, and you have to determine the flow rate as well, and that will tell you how far away from your point that the source is.
Okay.
They can do that, but again, with the complex plumbing environment of a school, it's going to be difficult to do that.
Wow.
That's why
True.
the Flint study team that was up in Flint, they were recommending just put filters on it.
I see.
So
It's wild, man. That is some wild stuff.
yeah. So and he said so during the first round. Whenever I brought that out, he was one of his big points was, well, only this percentage of taps tested above the action level.
Okay.
So this time I used that same point. Let's go look at Ridgeland and see how many test above. Because he was saying it's only like 4%. Okay, well this time it was 35%.
35%.
And one of them was 113 times the action level.
Wow. Okay. Wow. That sounds like a problem.
Yeah. It is. So why no accountability?
True.
And then we go back, and then that brings us back to my original article from December. Why isn't the school board taking this seriously?
Right.
Why aren't they looking into this?
Why aren't the meetings being more publicized? Why aren't we filming this? Why aren't more
And that-
people involved in all of these things?
And
It's
that takes
public.
us to those 2 school board members
Okay.
that I still maintain are serving in violation of the state eligibility law and the state ethics law that they themselves have voted on. They said that they're required to uphold it and they have to certify annually that they comply with it. My guess is that you can't hold the boss of your children accountable, which that's what Damon Raines is. He's
Okay.
I don't know anyone that could possibly be objective in that situation because Damon Raines, by being the boss of these 2 individuals. Now I will say this look, at the start, both of them are highly qualified. This is no judgment on them whatsoever.
Okay.
Both of the adult children are extremely qualified for the position, and by all record that I have, they've been successful in their positions.
Okay.
But with Damon Raines being their boss, has a tremendous level of influence over the course of those 2 careers.
Okay.
Their quality of life, their future. How could any parent, knowing that this individual has so much influence over the course of their career, be objective? If think about it, if you're
Sure, I understand.
giving a
Right.
harsh evaluation to their boss, is it possible that they might,
Right.
yeah.
I got you. So obviously,
And that's why that rule exists.
Right, and it's a
That's
rule
why it's
and-
there.
yeah.
It's not just a rule. That's why that law
the
exists.
law, exactly, not
Yeah.
a rule. Okay. So moving forward, where are we now with that?
So a parent has filed a lawsuit, actually.
Okay, a lawsuit.
And there's something called an extraordinary writ in Georgia, and it goes back 400 years. It's older than the country is.
Okay.
It goes back to Magna Carta days even.
Wow. Okay.
And what it is, it's called a writ of quo warranto, or warranto, wherever you want to say it. And that means by what authority? And what that is it's just a citizen or someone with a claim to office coming forward and testing the authority that someone has. By what authority are you holding this office? And they have to prove it.
Okay.
So that's been filed in Walker County Superior Court, and there's a hearing set for December 19th,
Okay.
at which point they'll have to say by what authority they hold. They're going to have
see.
to make the argument of why they can hold that office, and it's going to come down to one thing, just going to come down to the meaning of system administrative staff.
Okay.
Every other technology director in the state, they're system administrative staff. Every other CTAE or vocational director, they're system administrative staff. Walker
So
County,
they-
they're coordinators.
They're going to have to prove why they're even different, right?
Right. And another thing, interestingly, over the past few months, you can't find in the directory on the Walker County Schools website Justin Caruth's name. He's not listed as the CTAE director even, or the vocational coordinator, whatever you want to call it. He's not there.
So he was before, but he's not now? Or?
He was on there before,
Oh,
yeah.
he was on there before, but
Yeah.
he's mysteriously not now.
The vocational director or CTA director is listed as Sharon Williams, who retired in December 22. There's even a picture on the launch website of Justin and or the magazine, whatever it is, of Justin and her standing next to each other at the retirement with the caption that Justin's going to be taking over the position, but it's not updated on the website.
Ah, okay.
Don't want people looking into it, I guess. Is my guess.
Technical issue or maybe on purpose? I don't know.
With a
Speculate.
$144 million budget, you would think they could have a better updated website.
Wow. So, well,
and a streaming of the meeting.
so what is the answer to all this? Like, I want your educated on how could we move
So now,
forward?
why does all this matter?
Okay.
The big picture. Now, if you go to some of the, you have to go to back to the original article. I think it was.
Okay. The nepotism article?
Yeah, the nepotism
Okay.
article, and you can.
Let's see here. It was back in December.
Mm-hmm.
We're getting close here.
Yep. Ravaged by nepotism.
There it is.
Yep.
Okay. Pulling this one back up.
Scroll down.
Why does all this
So,
matter?
there we go.
Okay.
So, public schools, I think most people would agree that there's problems with them right now across the country.
Across the country, absolutely.
And if you go into Walker County, last year they had these 6 schools that were put on this list.
Okay.
And it goes beyond that. If you look at the reading level of any grade from 3 to 8, percent reading below grade level, that's just atrocious.
Wow.
If you look at their most recent proficiency scores in language arts or mathematics, and it's not just here, it's across the board. And it gets to we have local control in this country of our school systems. Well, they have to exert that local control. And the problem is governance as far as the school board. The school board's job is not to be involved in day-to-day, not to be in operational decisions. They shouldn't be picking curriculum. They shouldn't be doing stuff that educators, that's their job to do. You know, educators should be, the ones picking curriculum. They should be,
Sure.
they should be the ones involved in teaching.
Okay.
As far as the management, though, and the setting of goals and the accountability, that is their job,
Okay.
which they are currently shirking because of these adult concerns.
Right.
So I think that the school board needs to start focusing on student outcomes. I think that's the only reason they exist. I think the school system only exists for one reason, and that's to improve student outcomes.
Right.
They can't do that when they're concerned with adult concerns, which is what is happening here.
Okay. I mean, I know I've had a couple conversations myself about reading levels and other grades and how, in part, and I'm not taking up for the school system, but our culture has become so degenerative, this TikTok culture, whatever you want to call it, and that kids now are bragging about that they can't read and like how low some of their scores are, and especially ones that play sports. So, I mean, obviously we got a culture problem, but to me, looking at it, it seems like education has just become like this fast food package deal. Like you said, where the teachers are not able to pick their curriculum anymore. They're having to go through these sets of guidelines and all this kind of bureaucratic stuff that is failing our kids. And as they're getting textbooks taken away from them and shoved iPads, and
Right. Well, there's no research that I've seen that shows definitively that the switch to a device for every student and away from textbooks and the older way.
Right,
That
right.
it's a more effective way.
right, and then
And anything, it's putting students more at risk from all the tech concerns. There's a whole lot of things that go into that.
Sure.
But you're exactly right. You said that teachers are not, and this is where the problem I think is. It starts at the top with the governance because the person they put in place. So there's a study that goes back to 1965. It's called the Coleman Report.
the Coleman Report.
Right.
Okay.
And what that was, it found what actually changes student outcomes. What role does everything have into the outcome of the student achievement? What role does the teacher play? What role does the parent play? What role does the school environment play? Everything that's socioeconomic. They found that the majority of it was not the school.
Okay.
So no matter how much money you put into it, it was not the school. It was the student background, their parents, how much reading there was in the home, that kind of stuff. That played a way bigger role than anyone ever thought into the student achievement. They have since found that more studies have confirmed that, but they found that the only thing that really has any kind of influence, not the superintendent, not the principals, nothing, it's the teacher. So
Makes sense.
so knowing that it's the home environment, the background, all that they're bringing in, and the only thing that schools really can do is comes from the teacher. then the schools need to be structured in a way to maximize the ability of the teacher to do their job, to do, to teach the thing that they've been called to do. Well, right now, that's not the way it's set up because the incentive structure is for administrators to make more. So so if a teacher wants to make more money, right now she has to, she can max out in the teaching and then she's stuck. So how do you make more money? Okay, she's got to go into administration. A lot of teachers did not. They don't want to be administrators, but to make the money, they have to become an administrator.
Right. So what's the incentive to stay teaching? Right.
So you're taking the best teachers out, and you're putting them into administrators. Well, it's a totally different job. So that's one thing, and then the other one is the administrators. Now we have some good administrators. I don't know them or anything. This is something
this is your opinion,
right? So. You need a superintendent that has the same mindset that's the goal to maximize the ability of the teachers. So they're not there for their position. They're not there. They are a secondary position as for the teachers.
Right. They're supposed to be the support position.
Right. So you need to have that philosophy.
Okay.
From the top down, and then the superintendent would have administrators that have the same philosophy. Their job is there to maximize the ability of the teacher to do the job. All of these, give them more time for planning, give them better pay. Give them if they need support in classrooms where whatever it might be, if they need parapros, that kind of thing. That's what has to be changed to the top. They have to have that philosophy. Nothing else is going to change without that.
Wow.
And that's a governance decision. It's not something where the school board needs to get involved in day to day.
Sure.
That's where they need to have that put in place. And then once you have that philosophy, well, then you have metrics. If you look at our strategic plan in Walker County right now, and it's probably on the website, but you have 3 goals.
Okay.
That's normal. You want to have goals. For a school system. If you can go to walkerschools.org.
Yeah, we can do that.
Yeah.
Let's see here. Oops. Okay.
Menu at the top. About us. I think it's
Okay.
on there, yeah. Yeah, strategic plan.
Okay.
Yeah, I may have to zoom in on it all.
Yeah. I'm just going to make it like this. Here we go. All right. What are we looking for here?
Yeah, goals. Yep. So this is something that,
Okay, number 1, each Walker County school will demonstrate proficiency and or improvement on the CCRPI. Number 2, Walker County schools will improve stakeholder satisfaction. And number 3, Walker County schools will improve organizational effectiveness. Okay.
sounds great, right?
Right.
Can you tell me how you would measure
Not
any
really.
one of those and hold anyone accountable? Does that look like a definitive, like a hard goal that you can see, yes or no, you improved, you did?
No, I mean, to me it doesn't. I don't
No,
know.
and it's from 2016 to 2022, so it's up now. So
Okay.
they have to update it and I guess make a new one.
Gotcha.
I don't see where it's a very bland, it's very ambiguous goals. Yeah, goal is we're going to have 70% proficiency on 3rd grade reading scores. That's a goal
Okay.
that you can see, yes or no.
Right.
And what you have is once you have that goal, the job of the school board then becomes to holding people accountable. The superintendent, then you give him that goal. He's got 3 goals, let's say whatever it is. One of them might be proficiency, like I just said. That's an example. Well, then his goal is you set that for how many years out, how long it's going to take to achieve. Then they have to set up interim goals for the year within each year too. And you're just monitoring it.
Okay.
Now that's not that's not the high stakes testing or whatever it is. It's not high stakes or anything. It is you're working together to achieve that goal. So you can see if what his plan is, he's put forward a plan to achieve that goal. If it's not working, well then, okay, do you need more staff? Do you need more money on that? And that's where you can reallocate in your district, because if you only have so much money and you're still doing all these things, but we have this goal that we said we're going to set, that the community sets, we're going to have 70% proficiency. Our kids are going to know how to read.
Okay.
But you're not hitting it, well, then we need to cut somewhere. We might need to take out some extracurricular, activities. We might need to
Sure.
take out some elective classes and put, if you need to have 2 teachers in every 3rd grade classroom,
I see.
whatever it might be, we're going to hit that goal. That's our goal, or 3 goals, whatever they are. So they're not doing that.
No. So
They're spending their meetings right now, school board meetings, spent on recognitions, stuff, the propaganda, the cheerleading stuff.
I
That's
see what
all
you're
great,
saying. Right.
but it's
Hitting
not
the marks of all these programs.
right. Yeah, and
I got you.
even when they are talking about stuff that's going into it, they're not hearing they're not being given objective information about, like, 7 mindsets.
Yeah. Okay. So
When that
I
was brought
guess-
for them, it was just a rubber stamp.
So, moving ahead to the future, what should we, as citizens, as parents, what should we be concerned about, and how can we get proactive to change this in a better way? Like, is there people setting up movements or getting together? Are we communicating with the school board, or are they communicating back? I mean, so how do we move forward? We just need to elect new people, or what?
Yeah, I mean, you have to change the governance.
Okay.
It's local control. Now, 2 school board members are in all likelihood going to be removed.
Okay.
In
And
that
you're
lawsuit.
talking about the lawsuit.
Right. Yes.
Okay.
That'll be heard on the first hearing on it. I believe will be on December 19th. Is what I saw.
Okay.
That
So if these 2 are removed, then what happens to those positions? Do they get appointed, or is this another
I have to look
position?
into it to be sure, but I want to say that there'll be either a special election,
Okay.
or there will be an appointment, and then they will serve until November of next year, which
Then it will be an open election.
right. So the
Okay.
November election would be to fill the remainder of the term or fill a whole new term.
Okay. All right. Well, wow. That is some pretty big news there. So that's pretty wild.
It would be something that's never been done. And again, Quo Intro is just something that most people don't know about. But it's a citizen tool. It's been put in place by our founders to.
Oh yes.
It's a check on government authority.
There's a lot of common law that has been in the past that I'm learning about in different ways that have been forgotten.
So the lawyer for the parents that are bringing this, he is actually the only lawyer that I've seen when I looked into this. He did it. He represented a client in Roswell, Georgia, in 2016. They successfully brought the same suit against the mayor there about qualifications in violation of the law, and he was removed from office. The mayor of Roswell. So
Okay.
pretty big.
I believe there's a similar, and I don't quote me on this, but I think there's a similar suit that's kind of going on. I believe in the mayor of Whitfield County, or not Whitfield, but Floyd County. There's some discrepancies there about where they live and everything, and some things have been brought
Probably.
forth. So it's
Any citizen can bring it. That's the
Right.
thing too. You don't have to have for standing. You just have to be a taxpayer or a citizen,
Okay.
or have a claim to the office from an election.
Well, folks, that's a lot to take in. So, do you guys want to do some comments?
Sure.
Okay, let's see what we got
And
here.
we got.
Anything else before we start the comments? We're not done yet, so
Then I was
sure.
talking. So this is a lot of issues that I've had to learn about.
Right.
It's not like, and that's where I've been hesitant to talk about it too, because I wanted to make sure I knew what I was talking about. I don't put
Sure.
out anything without knowing
And
that.
I'm pretty.
put my sources
You're
in
not being accusatory
No,
that
it's-
I can see.
there's
You're just
nothing that-
stating the situation.
Damon did nothing wrong as far as the lead. The lead was not. That's out of his control.
Right.
But the response to it, what do you do once you
Right.
get it? He didn't tell the parents. He stripped them of the right to make medical decisions. Like I've had so many parents come to me. Number one, they're afraid for speaking out. Rightly so, from what I've learned. Teachers as well, employees. So the parents, though, I've had one that was. Some of these are heartbreaking stories because they talk about kids that they've had developed over the years a learning disability, and they don't know how that's. They don't know where. And it may be lead because it's not just water. There's also there's paint, there's soil, but all those are cumulative effects. If you could eliminate some of it, you should.
Sure.
And so here's another example of lead. I don't think I mentioned this, but when they took out the lead in gasoline, they found that it was responsible for the drop in crime that we experienced in the 90s, from the mid 90s to the mid 2000s.
Really?
Yeah, because in the inner cities, the blood lead levels from the leaded in the air pollution of leaded gasoline was raising the blood lead levels from 1975. The average adult blood lead level at that time was 15 parts per liter or whatever it was. In 2010, it was 3.
Wow. And that's a lot of smog in them older
And
carbureted
it
cars.
makes it dropping IQ points, all kinds of things.
Wow. Wow,
So
I mean, lead's a big deal. I've worked in nuke plants before, and lead blocks radiation. So there's a lot of negative effects of lead.
yeah.
So,
So it was his issue was how he responded
Right,
to it,
how he
and he's done
responded.
it twice now. Like
Yeah,
I said in the article,
understood.
is you would think the first one would have been a lesson.
Mm-hmm.
Apparently, it wasn't.
Gotcha. Okay. All right. We're going to take some comments. I'm going to just go down. Thank you for everybody who's hanging out. What's up, y'all? Marina Sutton. Floyd has SEL. They meet once a month, but only the counselor teaches it. They don't do the full-blown woke stuff as far as I know. So that might be something similar to what you were saying.
I feel
about
like, now, you quote, tell me if I'm wrong, but I feel like Marjorie actually brought that up.
She may have.
Oh gosh, I guess it was probably a year or so. I mean, I know it came
No,
up
you're-
in the
hit the news,
2020
You are
news
correct.
cycle.
It
Yeah.
was brought up. Mhm.
And everybody called her crazy. You know, they said, no, that's not happening. She was very adamant. So that, I believe that definitely
Yeah, and
has
that's her.
weight.
That's her home base, Floyd County. So obviously, yeah. I mean, well, I'm not going to talk. I know Floyd County. Yeah, there's a lot of good people in Floyd County, but there's so many things going on over there. Who knows? So, Allie Hicks, good to see you. Yep, Ray Blankenship. It makes no sense to me why anyone would vote to be taxed. Yeah, well, man, we should just do like a whole spot. I think this like
We can do those
a
shows.
whole
Sure.
thing on,
I
on
mean,
taxes. And
everybody
SLOSS.
is so paying attention now to everything that's going on. Like
Which is good.
Splosh,
Which is
it
great.
is good. It's going to create wonderful conversation about Splosh and taxes and everything else. So I think it's a good thing.
Well,
So,
speaking of Ray, we can talk about guns too.
oh yeah,
Cool.
Ray,
So
oh
I got a
yeah.
little something to talk about that.
Okay. Ray says we're getting double taxed. You aren't lying. Tyler Martin read somewhere. Thank you, Tyler. XXL dude on YouTube. Read somewhere that in one county, the proposed SPLOST would put a new 200,000 K roof on an abandoned school. Yeah,
abandoned school.
Yeah, there was an article about that. Tyler, feel free to send that to me. I actually read the a little bit of that same article, which I've been working like crazy, so I didn't finish it. But yeah, I know what he's talking about. Maybe I can get a link for that. Ray, read my lips. No new taxes. Yep, I'm loud and clear. Tyler Martin, GOP needs to get on with the program and platform to combat the coming economic storm and securing the border. That is the two top issues in the country. Georgia needs to end income tax.
We've already scheduled the end of the income tax.
Yeah.
It's already been done.
We've scheduled the end?
So it's a phase out.
Really?
Yeah, as long as the if the you have to hit, I think it was 1.5, and then there's another one that's 3% of revenue target,
Okay.
which we've hit each
Okay.
time. Over a 5-year period, 6-year period, it'll be phased out.
So-
There's certain levels for each one that they phase it down. We've hit the first one.
The income tax.
Right, yeah.
In Georgia,
Yeah.
you're saying that it's going to be phased out.
Yeah.
Wow. Where can I?
This was passed a couple years ago.
Wow, you're gonna have to send me that legislation.
Yeah.
I hope you heard that,
Yeah.
Tyler. Apparently, we're on track to phase out the income tax. That's something that a lot of us
Like
know
a strip,
about,
you
so.
don't want to just strip it out. I mean,
Okay.
You can.
Right.
It would be catastrophic.
yeah, I mean, you need
I
to do a phase
understand.
out for all the Yeah.
But it is in the works.
Yeah, it's not in the works. It's there.
Okay.
There's certain targets that you have to hit for. Now, let's say that we have an economic downturn.
Okay.
That's one of those ones where if we don't hit the target on the revenue, well, we can hit it next year.
Okay.
So it's going to happen.
Okay.
It's just a matter of us,
Wow.
doing it in a responsible way.
Well, it looks like we got some homework out there, guys. We're gonna have to get on top of that. So, Lisa Adams, Tyler Martin. It's time for Georgia to end the income tax. Hey, we're gonna be talking about that again. Ray Blankenship, I'm not voting yes to be taxed. We have to hold the elected officials' feet to the fire and spend my money responsibly. Amen to that, man.
I'm all about that. I mean, at the same time, you have to look at the how they're spending it now, and I don't think that there's like in Catoosa County. This is the way I look at Catoosa County.
Okay.
This is where because their big issue is taxes right now. They voted down T-Splost once. They're possibly voting down Splost. Catoosa County is like a Ferrari.
Okay.
Governing Catoosa County, as long as you keep it in gear and don't blow the clutch out, it's going to be fine.
Okay.
They don't have to, because their sales tax is such, they can get by pretty easily on the property tax. They don't have to levy a whole lot. Their property tax, majority of it is coming from the school system, which
Okay.
has to do that.
Okay.
Now that's where you need state tax reform to change the do reform on the property tax
Okay.
to give relief.
Okay. Okay. Ray, I live in the Walker-Catoosa County line. No one is going to pave our street. They cut it up and patch it, but it's been terrible through here ever since I've lived here. And that is true where he
So
lives.
now that part of that is because they didn't have a T-Splosh. They didn't have the only funding they had was from either property taxes or LMIG, which was a grant they used to get, and that's been declining ever since. And the county had to match that too, which it was like $1 million. Like for Walker County, they get $1 million. That pays about what 3-4 miles.
Okay. Well,
With 700 miles of road.
sure. I was looking at these documents about how much it costs certain areas, and I'm like, this is insane. So I don't know enough about it, but yeah, absolutely. It's just crazy. It's crazy. Angie Kittle, I'm for minimal tax, let private business and the economy work. Government can't do anything better than the free market.
That is true.
I agree with that. Angie, I'm for taking all government functions away that private businesses can do. Again, agreed. Allie Hicks, and still there. Ray Blankenship, they will never eliminate property tax on the people. We own our property until we don't pay our taxes, and then they come for you. They lose control if they let you out of your property taxes, and that will never happen. So I don't disagree. The property taxes are something we need to get educated on it. Property taxes keep going up every
You
year.
need to look into the land value tax.
the land. Can you explain that though?
Not so.
Right, it might take a while.
Yeah, that's something we need to talk about.
Okay.
Look into that, and that because it's a different type of property tax. Because right now we don't tax the land value. We tax the we tax the land value, but it's not taxed correctly. We reward speculators who just
Okay.
hang on to the land and let everything build up around them, and that sends up the value, and then they will sell that land,
Okay.
and just cash in while not developing it.
Okay.
So it's a cost to the owners around them. So look up the land value tax. Strong Towns. There's a guy, Chuck Marone, is a libertarian.
Chuck Marone.
Yeah, he's a libertarian civil engineer
Okay.
that does a lot of research into that. Strong Towns is strongtowns.org, I think, but he's written up a couple books about it.
Okay.
Land value goes back to Henry George in the 1890s. He was the first one to propose that.
Okay.
And Mises and Milton Friedman both prefer it as well.
Okay.
They say that's the least bad tax of all the taxes. that we have.
Gotcha. Okay. We will look into it. Angie, I think all faucets need it. We bathe in that water, brush our teeth. Yeah. Very possible. I mean, most people now are filtering their water anyway. Even in my home, we filter our water through several different,
Yeah, again, lead's not the only thing.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. There's all kinds of toxins. You have to worry about fluoride, a lot of different things. Let's see. Lisa Adams has been researching water. Yes, Lisa has. Angie, we aren't even being told about the toxins in our home water, of course. Allie Hicks, as parents, we have enough to worry about when it comes to keeping our children safe. We shouldn't have to worry about the water levels being hidden by the board. Well, I mean, amen to that. So, I mean, it's
Transparent.
not private school, it's public school, right? So the public deserves the right to know.
Yeah.
So, yeah, it's been good. Now, like I said, we can go as long as you guys need to. What else do we want to talk about this evening?
You covered so much.
Yeah.
I mean, that is
Quite a bit.
so much.
So, local politics. Where's Colton gonna go?
Where's Colton going to go?
Yeah, what's Colton up to?
Colton is, he's
I know you're
He's
so
my
this
guy.
which is and
He is.
we're definitely not Colton. Yeah.
I know. Why aren't you?
I
Tell
think
me
I've
why.
written the only thing I've written about schools that I've written about schools more is probably Colton.
Colton Moore.
And-
I was a bit cringy on the last article that you rewrote. Of course, like I said, I respect all. I respect you as a writer, but
I write about him because
That was
one of
tough.
the reasons is it just, forgive me, but it pisses me off how much he wastes his talent.
well,
He's
I
very
don't.
smart.
I don't think he's wasting it though. I think I honestly think.
When have
that
you ever
he's-
convinced anyone to do something out of outrage? When you came at them with
Well,
outrage?
the problem is, this is my opinion, and this is where I stand on this, is that this is not a normal situation, okay? None of this is normal. The Fonnie Willis, the RICO indictments, Donald Trump, the election situation,
Right.
all right? Regardless of where that you land on that spectrum, right? None of this is normal. So in the very abnormal aspect of this, it requires a little bit of abnormality to me. So Colton is, to me, he's listening to his constituents no matter what. Now, I realize that what he's done or what he was trying to do, which was mainly a special session, right?
He knew when he could never get a special
Right.
session from the very outset.
But he stood up to him, and that's what we're wanting. We're wanting the people to stand up. We're wanting the people to say enough's enough. This is
Every other
ridiculous.
state senator probably felt the same way. They'd love to stand up to him,
I
but they
understand.
know they couldn't get it done. So what's the point in doing it? The
Well,
point in
what's-
doing it was for him was to raise his profile, raise his name, which he did, which is good, I guess, unless you're going to alienate every other colleague that you have, and then you also not just alienate them, you put some of them in danger because of the ruckus that you've stirred up, knowing that you can't get a special session at any chance.
Well,
And even then, you wouldn't be able to remove Fannie Willis if you did.
well, that's all true to a certain extent.
So why stir up the ruckus in leading people to believe that a special session was possible?
Because we're tired of sitting on our hands, Elliot. We're tired of sitting on our
and
hands.
that's
We're
where
tired of getting
we've got-
ramrodded and run
The
over.
process
steamrolled.
exists. We have the system in place. Let it go through. They right
But
now
what's gonna go
all
through?
they've done is they brought the charges. I'm totally against that. I think they're crazy.
Mm-hmm.
RICO's crazy. I think all that the ring of the Espionage Act. It's ridiculous. But the process hasn't. All they've done right now is brought it. Let them convict him of it. Okay. Then if they go through, it goes through the Supreme Courts and it's still upheld. Then the system has failed us.
I
But
do
right now the
understand.
system's not.
I do. I understand. I mean, like, there is no.
That's why we have trials.
There
I
are
mean, yeah.
several different ways to go about this.
There's been plenty of people that have been. So Donald Trump's being the victim of the system. You know, we're going to get to see whether or not it actually can prove
I do agree.
someone to be innocent. when
It's
they
going to
are.
go through either way.
Well,
But that's another reason why. Why not try something bold like that? Why not? Why?
Because the reason
the
why-
governor could have called a special session, right?
and
he
again,
could've.
but he shouldn't have, because again, the same way the system's there. The system, we
understand.
have that. There's no reason to let us stoop to their level.
Okay,
pretty much.
well, why do we recently pass legislation though that will hold some of these judges and DAs accountable? This new
I
law,
personally was
you know.
against that.
I know, but it was passed. You see,
Right.
So I am sort of indifferent on it, right? I'm in the industry I'm in, so I didn't have really much of an opinion on it. But that was passed. It's kind of ironic that something like that passes, and you do ask a governor to hold a special session, and they're dead set against it.
Well, the
right?
reason it passed was because there was a DA in Athens that was just not charging for, and this is where so if you're DA, you have limited resources. Okay, I understand that. If they're not going to charge for marijuana crimes or whatever it is, I really don't care. If they got murder crimes that they've got to prosecute, if they've got whatever it might be that are higher level that are more important to the community. The community, if they don't think that's important, they can vote her out.
I do understand that. But this is also like the RICO charges and the millions of dollars that were spent up in New York to prosecute all this and the outside money. I mean, there's a lot of bad things going on
Right.
here. So why wouldn't you call a special session?
What are you going to do with special?
I don't know. I would love to see
You
it.
can't remove them because you're going to have the
Well,
you don't have the votes.
I don't know that.
He was not able to get any of the votes to even get to the special session.
And
He
then
would.
here's my argument with what he did, because a lot of people bring up he wanted notoriety, he wanted to raise money. Well, there's no difference in what he did than what any candidate does at any given point in time. They all
There
want
is-
our money. And when
there
I'm
is a
looking at
difference.
a sea of people that
He's
are
a
saying vote for
legislator.
me,
He's a legislator, and this is what
Yes.
I've made the point about him before.
Right.
He's a executive mind in a legislative body
Mm-hmm.
that he's in right now. He would have been great in an executive because he's the bold visionary, whatever it is, that likes to get up there and be the man. You're in a body that you have to negotiate and you have to compromise. You have to work together with your colleagues. You have to work together with Democrats. The legislature. It's not a body that rewards singularity.
okay, I do understand that.
And so what
And
he's done is
this
he's
is why
alienated
I've
people that he
defended-
needs to get anything passed at the local level. Like if we had a property
Right.
tax bill, the number one issue we've been talking about it. Number one issue for everyone around here, property taxes. So if you wanted to have a local bill about property taxes, do you think he's going to be able to get that passed? No, because the way when you've got your colleagues that are being threatened from people in Oregon or wherever.
Well, understandably so, and you can't throw the blame off on Colton any more than you can throw the blame off on. Wait, Colton didn't personally attack or
he
go.
said,
these.
"I'm going to have to get my gun and draw my rifle."
Flying here.
Yes, mosquito or something. Get my gun, draw my rifle for this. That is, the language was meant to inflame. It was meant to antagonize. It was meant to be a clip that was going to be shown, Steve
Okay.
Bannon was going to clip that out, and he could put it on his Twitter, whatever it was.
I
That's a political move. That's fine if
Okay.
he's moving up to raise his political profile, which should achieve that. And I argue that he was trying to do that all along. If you look
Right.
back at the other things he did with the ridiculous the border,
Well, I mean, I disagree on that. I mean, I think he's bringing a lot of awareness to
he
the border.
wanted to go down to he requested a special appointment from the governor
Okay.
to serve in the state National Guard to go to the border and lead the troops. He has no military experience. He has no training. No.
All right.
So
I'm with you. Now, what you're bringing up, and I can agree that they're abnormal. But here's my problem, right? Because I'm coming into this from my opinion of the direction we're headed. So we're constantly, as conservatives, we're constantly told that we have to compromise, that we have to continue to step over our lines and move further and further into this liberal nightmare, right?
I don't think that we have to do that.
Well, but we are. We've been doing that, right? With our culture, with our government, with our tax money, all these things.
No, at the state level, I agree with that. At the national level, I agree
we're
with it.
sitting here having a conversation, but I'm called a terrorist. I'm called an extremist, somebody
Right,
who's
yeah.
a white supremacist. All of these crazy things just for asking questions and talking. So we're constantly getting pushed in this direction,
And that's
while
where-
they have a line drawn where they don't think. It's all groupthink, and they literally just say, we're going to go this way no matter how asinine, no matter how stupid it is.
Mm-hmm.
And we're the ones that are constantly having to take the higher road. We're constantly have to go around all of this stuff, you know?
And that's where it
and
gets
at a
to
certain
the
point,
education and to the...
Yeah, but what if it's too late is my point.
Well, if it's too late, then what are we talking about then?
Well, we're talking about guns and going to the border and everything
I
else.
don't
We're
think
talking
it's-
about RICO
yeah.
charges. We're talking about standing up. We're
Yeah,
talking
no,
about
I don't
we're
think
going to
that
call a
that's,
special session, right?
Yeah, no, that's not what we're
I know
we're not
you
to that.
can't fight fire with fire all the time, but I applaud somebody like Colton standing up.
I do too, and I there's definitely no love lost there.
No.
With he and I, but I will tell anybody, and a lot of it is because he and I do actually believe we have very similar beliefs.
Positions, I mean, I'm sorry, the same thing, yeah.
We're right on par. You know,
Now,
I
methods that I disagree
respect.
with.
I will tell anybody that I absolutely think Colton has a place.
Right.
And I
in
think
Congress,
that
not
what
here.
he is doing
Maybe.
is valuable. And I do feel like we're seeing that politically because there is a political landscape change
Right.
that is happening. And we're
Sure.
really seeing it.
Well, look no further than Speaker of the House, right?
Right.
And it all ended up better than we'd all hoped.
Right.
Now, I will say this, right? Colton, I've known Colton for a while. Now, I don't like Colton any more than any other person. And I've told him to his face, I said, you need me a lot more than I need you. So my responsibility is holding him accountable, right? And to go further with Marjorie Greene, for example, a lot of people are dumping on Marjorie Greene right now. A lot of people are. I don't disagree with how people feel about it, but you have to
Right.
understand Marjorie Greene is not our enemy, and none of
No.
these people are going to do 100% of what we want.
They can't.
They can't. So, but rather than focus on the one thing that we can't stand that they did, you got to look at the good that they're bringing. Because even in the silver lining of all of this that Colton's done, it not only has raised awareness, but now and we can get off on the censor all day long, but that was the most asinine thing I've ever seen our Republicans do is censor one of our own, like in the way that they did.
Which I don't know we're referring to.
Huh?
Oh, you're talking about the...
Yeah, I'm talking
Yes,
about the
the
senators taking
Oh,
him
yeah,
out of
taking-
caucus.
you
That
stricken
is
out.
insane to me.
No, it's not, because so he was... He would... No,
Okay.
the individual...
Let's
So,
hear it.
again, he was... He was stirring up this this vituperative environment against his fellow senators for no reason, knowing that they could not remove, knowing that they could not. This was well after the initial, the thing. So he was continuing to do it, stirring all that up. He was told to stop. Come back,
Well,
come back to us. Okay, you got your moment of fun. You had your limelight. You raised the money. Now you can run against Marjorie
So
for
weird to
Congress.
censor people.
And you did all
I
that.
think they took it
you,
too far,
You raised
man.
yourself. Yeah, but
Took
then
it too far.
he continued on.
I understand
that's
that,
why-
but
I mean,
but they should have left it alone because I'm telling you, this is going to be bad on some of those people. I mean, we've had so much.
Oh, I know it's
going to
be. It was not. It was not the. It was not a good decision on their part.
No.
Politically, in a primary environment. Yeah,
No.
you're right.
And on top of
But
that,
it was the right thing to do because he needed to stop.
I can't ever say censure is the right thing to do on somebody. I can't.
I don't agree with that.
But
It wasn't a censure. They just
They
stripped him
kicked
of
him out.
They kicked him out of the caucus.
but-
No, he can come back if he follows the rules.
I
I don't know. I
understand
don't know
that,
what the
but
rules are, but that's
that's like dangling that piece of paper. Like, hey, you do what we want you to do. I'd rather him stand up.
It
and
was
say
rules
no.
he already agreed to.
There's. I'm not denying it. I'm not saying that Colton is not part of the situation, but I'm telling you,
He'll
this
fit
is
in much
not
more
a
in
normal.
Congress, anyways, because Congress is
So
a
what do
body
you
that
know?
doesn't
What do you mean he'll
legislate.
fit into Congress?
Oh, I mean, so again, this gets to the effectiveness level of a legislator now. Congress used to be a body that governed.
Okay.
They passed laws. They had a bunch of you had to you made your name by passing laws. Like Lyndon Johnson was known as the lion of the Senate. So it was all by passing laws. It was building relationships. It was by working across the aisle. Famously Reagan, Tip O'Neill. They worked across the aisle to get things done in the 80s, to pass the Social Security. They saved that, all the numerous tax cuts, all that.
But we have to remember
No, that's changed.
where Republican and Democrat were back then.
Well, it
30,
has nothing
40
to do
years
with
ago.
that. I'm saying they changed whatever it was. I'm talking about just the effectiveness of Congress. They were
I
passing
understand.
laws, everything. And then the 90s came along. They still did that to a degree, but really after 2000 or so, 2005, that all stopped. Now we pass everything through
Huge
omnibus
shift,
bills,
culture shift.
and legislators don't legislate anymore.
Absolutely, they don't. They
Now,
admit
the
they
state
don't
level-
legislate.
Representatives and senators, they still do legislate. So our process, because it's basically the same at every state, it's a mirror of whatever we have at the national level. So it's different. We've changed at the national level to where it's the level of to be effective is not to build relationships and to get bills passed and to be able to do that. Marjorie may be one of the most effective legislators
has
in
been.
the country because how do you be effective for your district now? You have to get things into the omnibus bills. You have to get things. You have to be able to get executive agencies who are doing all the governing now, since they're the ones setting laws through administrative policies. You have to be able to influence executive agencies.
Okay.
How do you do that? Well, you do that in a lot of cases, by scaring the shit out of them, because they don't want to appear in front of your committee. Because you're gonna, start
this
talking
is
about their affair with a
This
Chinese
is
spy.
much needed, right?
So they're afraid to come before her. So
They need to
just
be.
in my conversations with quite a few, of her constituents, things like Social Security, she's able to get things done very quickly.
Yeah.
And that's because her staff can call the executive agency, and the last thing that their boss wants to do is appear before that committee
Sure.
and have this woman up here raving and, out to her 15 million Twitter followers or whatever it
But
is.
how does she get there?
So-
Very abnormal circumstances.
That's what I'm saying.
So
It's
there's
weird
always
to
a
me.
silver lining
It's weird
going
to
back
me
to Colton Moore.
that the change on this. So that's what I'm saying. He would be much more effective up there than he
Oh,
would.
no doubt. I mean, Colt, he's such a smart dude, and that's why I'm glad to have him where he's at.
Oh,
I
he's
want
gonna
to
run
see
against
him.
her.
I want to see
You know he's going to run against her.
Oh, well, I'm not making that claim.
Oh,
so.
I am. He's been up to see Andy Biggs, the Freedom Caucus person who can't stand Marjorie. The Freedom Caucus has a huge war chest. Not to mention all the money he's raised here. He's not going to be using it for his race, so he can use it. He has to use it somewhere. He can use it to shower local level candidates to help turn out the vote for him.
Wow.
While he's raising money with the Freedom Caucus to spend it on his federal race, and Marjorie no longer has Kevin McCarthy in her.
That's true.
So what's she going to do to raise money now that she's lost her her cash cow on Kevin McCarthy, and she's alienated herself to her small donor base that once supported her by being so close to McCarthy?
That's heavy. That's big news right there. Like I said,
He's going to run against her. I mean, that's,
I'm not claiming that.
he-
but,
if he doesn't,
for
it's
the
his-
5 people still watching right now, that's
It's
big
his,
news.
it's his
Oh,
it's his
Lord.
best chance. He'd be insane not to. And then I would be left with the choice of voting for Colton or voting for a woman who I called cancer with legs,
Who's that?
Marjorie.
Oh, you call Lord have mercy. Man, you're rough on people, man. You
it
are
was a
rough
critical
on
article.
people.
Yeah,
I'm
yeah.
telling you.
I told you.
Hey, that's fine.
Some of my best articles have been my scathing ones. I like those best. They're the fun ones. to
Well,
write.
look, I'm gonna disagree with you on that. I respect your opinion, and there are no clean hands in what Colton Moore did. But like I said, there's a silver lining here, and I believe that we're starting to see how dug in the establishment is. All right, and I'm not picking on anybody. I don't want to name names. I don't want to go
it's
into
definitely
rant.
dug in.
But I'm telling you, we now see that Georgia is.
We have lead in the school water, and there's been one news report in the local TV news.
There you go. Sure.
At levels that are 113 times higher
Right.
than, more than 113 times higher than what the Flint, Michigan, which was wall-to-wall coverage just a decade ago.
Wow. So, what about you? Where's your future in politics?
Oh, I don't have a future. I'm not going to run for anything.
Not going to run for anything, huh?
So I don't know if you've seen my articles. I'm pretty scathing when it comes to politicians.
I read most of your
I
articles.
don't know if I want to be in the position of getting those scathing articles written about me.
Well, I understand. Yeah. Now, most of your articles I can read through. I'm not.
You skipped the ones on
The
Colton.
Moore, the last one, I had to stop halfway through. I was like, I'm gonna get mad at Elliot and start texting him. I'm like, nope, I'm not doing it. But I hope that you and Colton can find some sort of way.
Colton and I have had hours-long conversations before.
I understand.
We agree on a lot
I don't
of things.
think that you think he's your enemy.
I have it's nothing personal, Vincent. It's methods.
I do understand, but you got to take the good with the bad, and Colton has done a lot of good. Okay, I think. I'm telling you, I believe it, but time will tell, right? And time's going to tell what you're saying here if he's going to run for.
Well, he's going to run for Congress. I mean, that's all there is to
Good
it.
Lord, that'd be something crazy. Okay.
Which is good because he needs to run for Congress because he's burned every bridge he could possibly have in the state legislature.
Maybe not, because we do have primaries. We've got a lot of. There's so many.
He would need to get rid of
movements.
20 state senators. Not
Well,
happen.
hey, the grassroots movement is on fire in this state. Whether you agree with them
Oh,
or
I
not,
agree.
they
It's-
are on fire.
fair.
right
The
now,
last
so.
that's the election. That's 2 incumbents lost in Chickamauga last night.
And what was your
And the one-
post earlier? You said this should scare the crap out of anybody going into the next election.
Any incumbent should be terrified of the results last night because
Exactly.
in a general election, when you have independents and you have Democrats that are only given Republican choices, pretty much, but it was nonpartisan, but they're Republicans. You had 2 incumbents go down,
Right. There you go.
and Marjorie and Colton were not on the ballot to turn the crazies out. Which
Yeah.
I mean, forgive
Like
me,
me?
forgive me for calling them that. That's
You're calling me crazy.
well, no, I
see.
mean just the diehards.
I
Okay,
got
that's who
you.
voted in primaries. Diehards.
So let's move to some crazy. So what's your take on Donald Trump? Is he going to be the nominee?
Absolutely, he's going to be an
Yes, he's going to be the nominee. I don't know why that DeSantis is still even in this. I think he should hang it up, go back to Florida, and just let this thing roll on like it is.
It's going to be Vivek
And
as his
we're
running
not
mate.
talking. I'm not talking about what I want. I'm talking about that's the facts of the matter. I like Vivek. I like Vivek. Vivek is talking about things that I like to go down rabbit holes about. So he's a pretty cool guy. I don't like his little WEF history, but other than that, at least he's bringing up stuff. Robert Kennedy's bringing up good stuff. I'm not going to vote for these people, but I mean,
I
hey,
like Robert Kennedy's
like
one
the
thing that he's done is
conversation.
he put out an ad on this and he said he's not going to attack.
I hope he doesn't.
He
I'm
shouldn't,
tired of
man.
that crap. Nobody should ever have
Tell
to
me
attack.
why you're going to vote for me.
Yeah, give me
yeah.
your plan. Tell me what you're going to do. So
I know enough about the other person to know why all those things. I don't need you to tell me
Yep.
the attack. And that's
and truthfully, I don't
He
need
said he's
Donald
not going
Trump
to.
to do the same thing either. I think if Trump would just stop with all the rhetoric and just
Stop talking about
talk
2020.
everything that is going on for the future, I think he'd be much better off. I think he would win back some of these people who just can't stand him. So
well, yeah, because he
if
needs to stop
Donald
talking
Trump,
about
if you're
2020.
watching, man, just shut up and focus on 24.
Yeah,
All right, so what's
history
your take?
2016 was the.
Oh Lord, that's going to have to be a whole.
Yeah,
other
that was
episode,
just. I mean,
so.
he had such promise if he had just lost his ego and shut his mouth for 4 years. He could.
I don't think they were. I remember going to sleep that night, and I voted for Trump.
I was in New York. I was up there.
I was for Trump before. And my father was like Donald Trump, and I was like, no, this is the punk rocker of presidency. This is the guy we need, an outsider. And I remember falling asleep that night thinking Clinton was going to get it, and I don't think anybody was prepared for that. And we've paid a heavy price for that ever since.
No, I was outside Trump Tower.
Was you really?
Yeah.
Wow.
Because
Yeah.
I had a feeling that it was gonna.
Yeah, I was hopeful, but I really didn't think he was going to win it, And I don't think that anybody thought he was going to win it. I don't think they were prepared.
I don't think he did.
So no, I don't really think he did either.
Steve Bannon probably did, but
Yeah, maybe Steve Bannon's a smart guy. I mean, I don't.
he didn't have him in 2020. And that's probably killed him.
That I really think that was a really.
I disagree
bad,
with Steve Bannon on a lot of issues,
Right.
but his strategy wise, he's
I think
one of the.
I think getting rid of Bannon early on was a bad thing. When all that happened. But
Bannon never should have. He was not a governing guy.
Sure.
He never should have been trying to govern.
No.
He's a campaign guy.
Strategist.
He knows how to. He's like Roger Ailes was.
there you go. So now, are you?
She's going to run for something.
This is what I'm getting at. I don't know if you want to talk
Everybody
about it
wants
now.
me to run for things. Everybody
Okay.
has all kinds of ideas.
Were
of
you
things.
running for mayor of Chickamauga?
No, so no, but Trey Tech. I did help run. I helped ran his campaign.
Okay.
I have been involved in multiple campaigns over the years.
Okay.
I did run in 2022 against Marjorie as a libertarian.
Okay.
And the whole purpose of that campaign was to shine light on ballot access in the state of Georgia, which is absolutely horrendous. I
Okay.
would have had to have collected a minimum of 50,000 signatures just to have my name on the ballot.
Wow.
Which is ridiculous.
Wow.
And we did well. But I mean, 50,000 signatures, and of course the 14th district is so large. But I will say this, Marjorie was very sympathetic to that. I actually, I had the opportunity to meet with her while I was running, and had great conversation about that. That was a very interesting run, and there's different metrics for winning, right? And especially for libertarians, that metric is just pushing. It's getting the ball further down the road, and getting the messages to change, and getting what it has been for years is getting these career politicians to change.
Sure.
And that is one thing, backtracking, that I really respect from people like Marjorie and people like Colton. While I think they're very much so like a bull in a china shop, at the same time, they're pushing that envelope so that we're seeing candidates break through more.
Yes.
That you're seeing your more independent and your more libertarian minded candidates being able to break through the noise, and people and I absolutely believe that because of things like that, we're gonna see ballot access reform. We're gonna start seeing things like that because
see it in
it's
Georgia.
just well.
I mean, because if the primary's going to be dominated by, forgive me again, the crazies, you're going to see primary reform.
Good. I like crazy.
It is.
I mean that to say, if they're going to if they're going to nominate,
I like a little crazy. I mean,
Yeah.
when you look at the establishment and you look at what the decades of the culture decline and the corporatocracy taking over. I mean, all these things we can go into, but this is like it's becoming a bought and paid for system. And my kind of crazy is people standing up saying, I want to put power back to the people, and I want to eliminate some of
I
these
agree with
laws and these regulations and these taxes and these things, and we want to get back to
I'm all about private
balanced
market,
budget. We want to get back to spending accordingly. Doing these things and building up America First policies. Right. That's what I'm all about. So
one thing that somebody asked me, God, when I was running, it was the funniest thing, is they said, well, how would you say in the Fed, or you say in the Department of Education, and they're like, how would you do that? And I'm like, just do it. Just
shut
pull
it down,
that plug.
put it back, put the education back into the people.
But I can appreciate the fact that we've screwed up so much that we're in a state that you can't. Otherwise, you see like complete catastrophic meltdown.
Sure.
So I do have respect for that, which I also think is we're seeing that shift where that's going to start to happen because it's at a pivotal point where it can't. It absolutely. If it doesn't change, then we will have anarchy because eventually people are going to. And you know what? I laugh and I tell people, I'm a minarchist because I realize the reality of what we're working with. But at heart, I'm an anarchist, and that's just where we're
I
at.
dabbled with that a long time ago. I grew up in the punk rock grunge 90s. I had a lot of friends that were anarchists, and I could never understand anarchy for the simple fact that no matter what, you're going to have a natural hierarchy in any situation, right?
I mean, we have a
our
community.
human-
We're a
that's our
community
nature,
species.
yes.
Exactly. So that being said, you have to have law and order. You got to have some sort of rule of law. But
Right.
at the same time, where we're at with all of these things, and then now the absence of the rule of law, it's
Yeah.
like, oh Lord. So
Oh God.
I feel like we're just teetering,
Yes.
So
It's gonna be very
time will tell
interesting, yes.
if the crazies are gonna, we're gonna come out of this, or if this establishment.
And I don't
is
mean
gonna
that in
keep
a
driving
derogative
us.
way. It's just
No. We're
diehards
Yeah,
for
we're
it.
growing up here. I think everybody knows that now. You're not talking about anything like that. It's the same as if somebody said rhino or anything. It's
Oh
not.
no, that's my middle name now. Apparently,
No,
you know that.
well.
Especially after I write an article about Colton, that's you see
Well,
this stream
you
of
know.
rhinos come out in the comments.
Listen, all I'm gonna say about Colton is that I
Congressman Colton,
hey, whatever Colton decides to do, I think he's gonna try to do it.
the only
best
one
he
that can beat Marjorie.
Well, that's certainly possible. So we'll see.
And I
about
imagine
that.
he's got some polling on that too.
Right. Let's see here. I will do some more comments. Oh, wow. We're almost at 2 hours. So
Oh wow.
let's see. He has no interest. Just let me go back a little bit here. A lot of people. Okay, man. The Colt. Woof.
Colton got very fired up. Didn't
Yep.
he? Yep.
Dang, I don't know where to even start here. Let's see.
Basically, it was shut up, Elliot.
Yeah, it's pretty
You
much.
shut up.
Yeah.
Colton
Can you
is.
someone
oh,
explain why
we-
we need T-Splosh? Okay.
We voted him in to do. We need strong voices. Yes, Lisa, can someone explain why we need T-Splosh, why our taxes don't already pay for what T-Splosh is for? Yes,
Probably
we've
We'll
talked
do a
about
show on
that.
that, yeah.
Team Colton Moore. Yes. Just because we can't win, we shouldn't fight. I agree.
That's
Sit
a
down and shut
valid-
up again.
No, validity.
Marxists. Okay, Ray Blank said Marxists are taking over, and someone stood up and said, "Not on my watch." That was Colton Moore. They brought up a special session for redistricting, not for when our state is under attack by. That's true. They brought up a special session for that, but
Because
they
they
wouldn't.
had to. Under the law, you had to have the redistricting done.
I
Because
understand,
it's
but
because
it-
they gerrymandered it, and then they were like, "Uh-oh, this is not
Well,
good."
there's a lot
Which
of
is
truth to that.
but
But
again, that's the
Well-
gerrymandering. As long as you have the elected representatives, they can be voted out. Because I don't have a problem with gerrymandering. That's
Right.
the elected representatives are there. The people can take them out if they don't like how they draw the districts.
right now,
Which they probably will if Georgia keeps trending a certain way.
true.
Which is why they shouldn't be doing it. Is they
they
should
shouldn't be.
temper their their approach. But if you live in a state like California, New York, when you have the huge majority, of course they're going to gerrymander it as much as they can. Georgia used to. We're getting to be more of a purplish state. They have
we're
to.
bruised.
They have to. Account for that.
Right. Now, Lisa says, endanger other colleagues is where I'm confused. And like I said, we can't hold Colton's rhetoric to blame any more than anybody else's. But that's where I don't think Colton had anything to do with that personally. And I don't think that they were able to prove that other than just dangling that paper. But let's see. Angie says, there is a reason to stoop to their level. If you got to waller with the pigs, you got to get in the mud. Well, I mean, at a certain point, I believe we're having to fight fire with fire. It doesn't mean that I'm comfortable with it.
I'm going to send you something. Bill Haslam wrote a book.
Okay.
It's called what's it called? Faithful Presence in Leadership.
Okay.
I guess it's something like that. And it talks about just that because he's a very successful politician with Tennessee. Did a number of things. They just had their ESA passed. The redoing their education
Haslam,
front.
Governor Haslam?
Yeah, Bill Haslam in
Okay.
Tennessee. And he's a very faithful man. And he wrote this book about faithful leadership. It's grace in leadership. And he was always hit with being a rhino towards the end of his term, and especially recently. And one of the things he said that we have to go to their level. We have to no, we shouldn't. And he talks about the Sermon on the Mount. There's all kinds of things in that book. I'll give you that. You need to.
Well, I mean, there's
It's-
some
it's
truth
worth
to
reading
that.
too.
I'm more of not necessarily stoop to their level, but always stand your ground and stand on it. Don't give an inch. I understand we got to
I
compromise.
think you should.
I do.
We should be guided
I'm
by
good with
principles.
that.
We shouldn't be guided by what they do. We should
True.
hold true.
Well, I mean, that's the whole Republican Party is reactionary. All we do is
Well, I mean,
react.
so-
we
so we-
react and react.
And that is because we're the conservative party. We're
Right.
naturally going to be that way.
Right.
Because it goes back to Burke and Payne in the very beginning of our republic. Burke was from the British, so Payne, common sense, all that. He was. If you go back to the French Revolution, Paine was very much in favor of the French Revolution. He was also 100% supportive of it, tearing down institutions, all that. And then you have Burke, who was writing about it at the same time. It's like, this is the worst thing in the world because they're tearing down things without having anything to replace it. They're just destroying.
There's truth to that.
Well, then you had the terrors that came after that.
You had the vacuums to be filled, right?
Right. So Burke was proven right on that, and that's where modern conservatism comes from. That.
Okay. Lisa, he's smart, brave, loyal man. He's for the people and not the establishment. I agree to that. Yeah.
The establishment. He's in the Republic. He's an elected senator.
Yes, but what she's referring to the establishment. What I would refer to the establishment. That's a long conversation, and not one that shouldn't be had, but it won't be tonight. But,
right.
Yes. All right, Ray. He did what I asked him to do, and many others with me. Negotiating has got us to this point, and now we are being steamrolled by the establishment. Enough is enough. I do agree. Let's see, Lisa, it's ridiculous. The border, Angie, we are fed up. We shouldn't have to keep giving up rights just because weak politicians want the easy way out. I want more Marjorie's and more Colton Moores every seat. So, all right, I am proud of Colton. He stood alone and held his ground. This wasn't a stunt. He put his life on the line to stand up.
Or his colleagues.
Ray, people gave him money because he stood up and put himself in harm's way, and people understood that.
He put 2 colleagues in harm's way.
I'm so triggered you can't win, so sit down and shut up. That is our problem.
No, that's not what...
Lisa, again, sit down and shut up. We're tired of that. That hasn't worked so far. Let's replace seats. Action speaks louder than words. Ray, the argument is that he either works for the leadership or for the people. We don't have the vote, so sit down and shut up. Your constituents or your fight doesn't matter to us, so go away. That's the attitude that has to stop. Lisa, so he thinks Colton should just be quiet and play nice.
No, I say when you have the advantage, you should use it.
Right.
But when you can do something,
Okay. It sounds like something a Democrat would say. Okay. Tyler Lee, good evening, good people. Good evening to you, sir. Ray, no, he won't. He has no interest in that seat. Just ask him. I did.
He's going to run for
Okay.
Congress.
You said it, not me. All right.
He'd be insane not to.
Angie, people said the same thing about Marjorie. Now she's leading the pack. Colton has gained more support simply by fighting for us than old school, politically correct, weak politicians can imagine. Lisa, so he jabbed at Marjorie too. Wow. Tyler Lee, we need people who will stand up to the establishment, not run for it. Lisa, he might want to speak to Colton before he announces that he's running against Marjorie. Trade deck, the crazies. I'm not crazy. Me either.
It's a diehard, okay? That's what I meant by a diehard.
I like crazy, but I'm tired of the same old talk. Allie, and someone please regulate his social media too. Tyler, well, I'm your guy. Tyler, I'm more of a revolutionary. Lisa, so if not Marjorie or Colton, then who? Mr. Rogers, Captain Kangaroo, what the hell are we discussing here? And Tyler, I wish independent ballots would be the new way. So.
I agree, Tyler.
Yeah. So,
100%.
And I got a lot of people here that are mad about you with Colton.
Yeah.
Hey, like I said,
if I wasn't pissing people off, then I wouldn't,
Okay, like it's a free country. I respect your
A lot of
opinion,
people,
so.
that's nothing too.
Yeah.
Free speech.
Well,
Not a lot of people can say what they think.
I understand. We try to harness. We try to keep that atmosphere here. So,
'Cause
and
I
a lot of these
guarantee
people
you
are my
that
friends, and I'm part of them.
These
so,
these establishments that I've been talking about, the government institutions we've been talking about tonight,
yeah,
they absolutely will exert their influence and power against
Mm-hmm.
people who speak out.
right, and that's true. And I believe that it is showing. I've said this to so many of these people. We've had the conversations that this pain has to happen. All of these things had to happen so that we could see after the dust settles where we stand with this versus like this grassroots, we the people, or the establishment corporatocracy. I really believe that. Like, we're having to go through these pains so that we can figure this out on our own. I feel that it used to be us fighting against Democrats, liberalism, all these things. Now we're fighting against ourselves.
Yeah.
And it's a power struggle. People don't want to give up that power and let new people in, and especially if they've got a grasp on it to where they can do whatever they want and screw the people. That's how I feel about it.
I agree.
So,
I mean, change happens.
Exactly, and it's painful. So, we're going to see where this dust settles. But we're going to go
Thanks
ahead.
for having us, though.
Oh yeah, hey, this has been amazing tonight. It's been amazing to meet both of you, meet you in the flesh. Appreciate you coming on and sharing all these things. We appreciate everybody out there that is commented and has been a part of this, please help us share this out so
School
that
boards.
we can
School
get it out
boards.
everywhere. And like I said, we are free speech absolutists here, so it's been a good conversation. I don't think that we'll ever agree on everything, but I respect you, and
That's,
you
I
know.
mean, half my articles, I'll write one about government. I'm going to say privatize everything. You'll agree with that, won't you?
Maybe I don't. I am for limited government.
Well, you're limited,
You know,
yeah.
I like smaller government, but
Smaller is not. I mean, limited doesn't necessarily mean anarchy, or
no.
It means
I want protected borders and American first.
It means
policies.
the power of the government is limited.
Sure.
Not
I
the,
want independence brought back to the nation instead of our children learning how to go to McDonald's and eat a burger. I want them knowing how to grow their own food. I want them to know how to work on their own machinery. I want the independence
I
brought
want
back to the people.
self-determination. That's what I want.
Well, I think
If they
you
want to
can-
go to McDonald's, if they want to do that, I want them to know these are your options. You can pursue happiness in your own way, whatever that way might be. If you want to go into the
Sure.
tech world and the techocracy, whatever you want to do, go into that. Or if you want to be a homesteader, you can do that too. Whatever
Well-
your pursuit of, whatever constitutes happiness for you, the government is there to secure your right to that happiness.
Okay, I can get on board with that.
Well, good, because it's the fundamental principle of America.
It is, and no, you're right. It's just I feel like our culture and the Industrial Revolution has brought us to this point to where we've forgotten how to live without these things. That's where I want to see in America where we know how to live without these.
Well,
things.
yeah, that's the decline of the family structure. All
exactly,
that. Yeah.
and it's all tied in together.
It goes from the progressive, not so much the Industrial Revolution as it was the progressive movement from the early 1900s.
Sure, the Marxism and these other things that's come through.
Woodrow Wilson and all that. Because,
The FDR.
well, at the time of FDR, it was a competition between the Republicans and the Democrats as to who had the word liberal, the more right to it. FDR happened to win.
Gotcha.
And that's why now you say you have to say you're a classically liberal to regain the use of the word,
Understood.
But yeah.
All
It
right.
was both parties at that time, too.
Well, listen, hey, we're gonna get off here. Thanks for hanging out with us, Elliot Pierce, Angela Pence,
Thank you so
and
much.
you guys.